I've been city, county, and state police officer, and I was certified as a defensive tactics instructor, a police instructor, and an EMT instructor, and I trained people in Arkansas. I trained people from all agencies, and
were you ever in the military?
Yeah, I was in Army, active duty in 69, 70, and I was in the reserves after that.
Were you in Vietnam?
No, I didn't go to Vietnam. I went to Korea, but I was in the Special Forces, Army Special Forces, Green Beret unit for the last 3 years I was in, and it was a lot of fun.
Well, I want you to tell me about something that happened to you when you were a highway patrolman in Wyoming.
Okay.
It's a story you told me about something that happened to you when you were a highway patrolman and you were in Evanston, Wyoming. Can you tell me about that?
Yeah. Me and another patrolman named Mike Clark were working together one night. One of our cars was broken down, and right now I can't remember whose it was, whether it was mine or his. And we got a call from another highway patrolman, Gene Mallory. We were at about milepost 10 approximately on Interstate 80. And Mallory was at milepost 19. There's a road turns north there and goes up to Kimmer. And he called and told us that he was under the overpass, and he had an individual in a vehicle there. Said the guy was a little weird, and he wanted us to come out and talk to him too. The guy was in an old car, looked like it had been burned out on the inside, and he said he really didn't like policemen, but he liked Mallory okay, and he would talk to him. Well, Clark and I headed out, and on our way out there we met Mallory headed back towards Evanston, and we asked him where he was going, and he said he was going to over to the state hospital there to try to pick up a psychologist to come out and talk to this guy, because he thought the guy might be a little bit demented. And the guy had told him that 20 years prior to that he'd been picked up by spacemen, and they put a little thing in his head. He didn't know what it was, he just called it a little thing, and that they talked to him, and that they were coming to get him pretty soon. And he was pretty adamant about it. And so Mallory decided he'd go get a doctor to come out and talk to the guy to see, you know, if there's something wrong with him, or if the guy was, you know, just legitimate abductee, I guess you'd call him. But he left the guy there. Well, when Clark and I got there, we went under the underpass, and the guy wasn't there. The car was gone, and we went back south of there about a mile or two, and then we didn't find him, and we turned around and come back up and started north, and we went up north a little bit towards Kimmer, and we still didn't find him anywhere. And we were traveling pretty fast, so he couldn't have, I don't know what kind of car he was in. It was just, Mallory had told us it looked like it was a burned out old car. Well, we couldn't find him, so Mallory did bring the psychologist back out there, but they couldn't find the guy either. And we thought, well, he's gone. So
did they ever find him?
No, and never did find him. And you know, of course, a story like that sounds a little bit weird to someone who don't believe in spacemen or something. But later that night, about 10 o'clock that night, it was really good and dark by then. This was in late 78, the winter of 78, or the real early months of 79. and it got really dark by then. Well, me and Clark arrested a DUI out on I-80 out near Lyman, and that's about probably 25, 30 miles out from Evanston. We could hear Mallory talking on the radio, and he was telling dispatch about these UFOs that he saw. And he had counted them, and he said there were 27 of them in formations up above him there. So he sat there and took pictures of them. And not only did he see them, but I believe it was Montpelier Police Department out of Idaho, a couple of deputy sheriffs in Utah, and maybe a Utah highway patrolman, and some of the Evanston police officers saw them too. And so, you know, me and Clark were joking around about it, and we said, well, maybe that guy wasn't all wet, you know. Maybe they did come get him, because we couldn't find him. And he just kind of disappeared. Well, the next night, Clark and I were riding together again, and some of the police officers from Evanston and deputy sheriffs and city police were out north of town, and they called us out there to come out and see what they saw. And we went out there, and there were, we saw 9 UFOs hovering above the horizon, and they were just sitting still. And we looked at them through binoculars. They were more or less triangular shaped, and they had flashing lights, and I believe they were amber colored lights. And there was 9 of them, 3 formations of 3 each. And they hovered there for a while, and then they started slowly moving away. And then just like that, and they were gone. Well, Mallory had called the night before and asked, or had the dispatcher call and check with Utah Air Traffic Control at the airport and Hill Air Force Base to see if they had any military operations or flights of jets or any other unusual aircraft out there. And they said no, they didn't. And so, you know, Clark and I didn't have them checked with anybody, but we just watched them and they disappeared. And that was the extent of the UFO sighting for us.
Now you say you saw them disappear.
Yes.
Right? And did they just blink out, or did they
No,
move?
they moved away in very rapidly, just like that, and they were gone. Yeah, and I was watching. They didn't leave any kind of contrails or any exhaust from the. We couldn't see any exhaust from the aircraft or spacecraft, whatever they were.
How far away were they when you saw them?
I'm not sure, Dave, because that's deceptive, but especially out in the desert like that, yeah, I'd say they'd have had to have been probably several miles away from us.
On what horizon?
On the west, in the west there.
Off towards Idaho and
Yeah.
Utah?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. They were low on the horizon, and they headed north when they left out. So, you know, that's what we saw, and I didn't understand it. I still don't know what it was. But that's not the only UFOs I've seen in Wyoming.
Can you tell me about that?
Yeah, when I worked for the Wheatland Police Department, one night, it was just about shift change time.
What year was this?
This was in, I believe, late 79 or 80, one or the other. Yeah, but the shift relief had just come in, and it was normal custom for the guy that was relieving you to carry you home in the car. And it was really kind of funny because the guy that had come in to relieve me was afraid of things like UFOs and spacemen. He didn't want nothing to do with them. But two of the guys had already gone out on patrol, and they were up at we called it an airport. I don't know if it was just a landing strip or what it was, but there was a landing strip out there, and they were already up there. And they called and told us, said, come out here and look at this. There's something weird going on. So we went out to the edge of town there, beside, we were just adjacent to that landing strip, and there was a very bright light coming towards us. Now, it was coming out of the east and traveling to the west, and we sat there and watched it for 5 minutes, and it just kept getting closer and closer, and seemed to hover over the end of the runway down there. And I told the guy that was relieving me, I said, I'm gonna aim this spotlight at him and see if you know, I can draw any response from him. And he said, no, don't you dare, don't you dare. I said, you aim that spotlight at him, I'll shoot you, I swear. And I could see he was really scared. So that thing come on in and hovered at the end of the runway, just this very bright light's all we could see. And then it just started moving away. Now there were no engine sounds or nothing. So I rolled the window down so I could hear and listen and see what kind of aircraft it was, but there was no sound, just this very bright light, and it come down. And to the looks of it, it didn't look like it was more than at least less than a mile away. You know, of course at night and in a place like that where you don't have a lot of trees and stuff, you don't have any objects to judge distance by. So anyway, I thought, well, that's less than a mile away and I don't hear any engine sound. No helicopter sound, no aircraft sounds of any kind. And I said, that's kind of weird, that may be spacemen. And he said, oh my. And I told him, I said, I'm gonna shine my spotlight on it and see if we can get a reaction from him. Oh, don't you dare, I'll shoot you. He was really scared. And so I told him, okay, I won't. The other guys did in the other cars, but he was afraid they'd shoot us with a death ray, you know, if we shine a light on them. But on the way taking me home, well, the light come on in and hovered at the end of the runway. And then, just like the other spacecraft, it started moving away very slowly. And then, after it had traveled probably, half a mile or so, it just, and it was gone, just disappeared like that.